Hello, everybody. Hello. Welcome to Meet the Paralympian, our second episode this week. We're massive pleasure to be joined with Sophie Christiansen. Hi, Sophie.
Hey, how are you?
We're all brilliant. Yeah, we're really glad to have you here. So we're here just second of our Meet the Paralympian series. Yesterday we started off which launched Disability History Month, and so we're really glad to have you today. So Sophie Christiansen CBE is a British dressage rider who's competed in 4 successive Paralympic Games and is a current 8-time Paralympic champion. She's won multiple world and European titles. In 2016, following her success in the Rio Paralympics, she placed 5th in the BBC's Sports Personality of the Year and the highest placed female and para-athlete. Sophie started riding for physiotherapy at the local Riding for the Disabled Association group, and she first competed at the Paralympic Games aged 16 and was the youngest athlete for Great Britain at the Athens Paralympics 2004, coming away with an unexpected bronze medal. Not just an athlete, Sophie also graduated with a first-class master's degree in mathematics from Royal Holloway University in 2011 and now works as a software developer in an investment bank, Goldman Sachs. Thank you very much, Sophie. I hope that was a good enough introduction for yourself.
Definitely.
We're also joined with Zain and Abdul, 2 our sabbatical officers, and Elspeth, who's from the Equestrian Society. Is that correct?
Yeah, from Equestrian.
And so they're going to be chipping in,
Equestrian Club Connor, sorry.
Sorry,
Equestrian
yes,
Club
I was waiting for your correction. And so, yes, they'll be shipping in to ask some questions as well. But I suppose since I'm talking, I'll kick off the first one. Sophie, you've achieved so much, but how did it feel to represent Team GB?
Oh, well, all my different times of representing Great Britain have been massively different. So you said in the intro that I competed in my first games when I was 16. That obviously being such a young age, I kind of didn't know what I was walking into, if that makes sense, which actually made it a bit more enjoyable. I had very little pressure. And then obviously winning my first gold medal in Beijing, and then representing Great Britain at home games was an absolute honour. So they've all been really, really different circumstances.
Excellent. Thank you for that. Abdul, you have arrived. Zain has arrived. And Elspeth, feel free to continue the question and answer. And I'm going to sit back and see what you have to say.
Well, did you want to start with my video
Absolutely
first?
not. That would be a really good link. Let's do that. Yeah. That would be brilliant. Adam, you're on mute, just to let you know. But thank you. Adam's going to be the PowerPoint whiz.
The theoretical PowerPoint whiz. Okay. Right. Is that sharing? Square screen 1. Okay. Wait a minute. Is that sharing there?
It is.
Okay, and you can see the PowerPoint? Okay, great stuff.
Two months premature, 1 heart attack, 1 collapsed lung, as well as cerebral palsy. Cerebral meaning brain, palsy meaning disorder of movement. Sophie Christiansen has spent her life ignoring this chaos theory.
Good boy.
It's not disorder, but the purest form of order that can make half a ton of horse move to such a precise rhythm that it brings gold medal after gold medal after gold medal. An order 2 in numbers, a first-class master's in mathematics, 2 days a week working in the square mile, giving the mind a different focus, lessening the intensity of competing at the highest level.
Whoa, what's going on here?
Other numbers are earned in an equation that takes 4 long years to solve. Training hours times dedication times sweat times pain times effort times sheer unbeatable will. It equals incredulous, incredible results. 4 Paralympic appearances, 10 medals, 8 of them gold, 3 gold medals in Rio. A proven equation cannot lie. Sophie's formula is the winning formula. But there's one last number. One beaming, life-affirming, determined, successful, against all odds, bright and enormous smile.
So that was from the BBC Sports Personality of the Year. So I can do an intro about my life if you want, or we can do Q&A. Totally up to you.
Well, what we could do is that if you've got this PowerPoint ready, we can go through that, and then we can open it up to questions. How does that sound?
Perfect.
Brilliant. Adam, would you? Yeah.
I'm on it.
Cool. So I'll start at the very beginning. I was born 2 months prematurely with cerebral palsy. Many added complications actually. I had a heart attack, one of my lungs collapsed, blood poisoning, jaundice, you name it, I basically had it. So even at the start, I was causing my parents a lot of grief. But they told a story of one night when they were called into the hospital for the 3rd time to be told that I probably wouldn't last the night. They were holding hands over my cot when all of a sudden I opened up one eye and looked at them as if to say, "What are you two complaining about? Of course I'm gonna make it." So right from the start, they wanted me to live a relatively normal life. So I went to normal schools with special units attached, which was the perfect solution for me. I could, access academia alongside able-bodied kids, but also get the help that I needed. So at primary school, the physios who came to see the disabled kids just so happened to believe in the benefits of horse riding for kids with disabilities. So they took us all to the local Riding for the Disabled Association. When I was just 6 years old, and I absolutely loved the freedom that it gave me and really going fast. It was something I couldn't do on the ground, and I loved riding for therapy and recreation. It didn't make me feel special like physio exercises normally do as a young child. And I've always been quite sporty. I used to play football and hockey at school, even if I was rubbish. So when I found that I could do power dressage, I really wanted to excel and see how far I could take it. So I started dressage when I was 13 at South Bucks RDA, and I was classified. So in the Paralympics, to make it a level playing field for disabled athletes, all the athletes are classified into, there are 5 grades in power dressage, and I'm classified as a grade 1, which is the most disabled. So actually I only compete at walk, which sounds quite boring, but actually keeping a horse's concentration for 6 minutes at walk is quite challenging. I think everyone knows what dressage is now after 2012, but basically it's like dancing on horses. So I was selected for Athens as the youngest rider to ever compete. And the whole experience really changed my life. You know, growing up with a disability, I was quite self-conscious, especially because of my speech. But seeing all these amazing Paralympians laughing and joking and getting on with their life, I wanted to be seen in this positive light as well. So, you know, winning an unexpected bronze medal really lit a fire in me to go on to win gold. So I went to my first games just after my GCSEs, and I found that the balance between education and elite sport really suited me. When, you know, studying the books became a bit boring, I could go and train. And when the sport was getting a bit too intense, I had something else to do. So I continued balancing. I completed my A levels and got to finish my degree at Royal Holloway, whilst winning my first gold at Beijing. But really, what everyone now wants to know is about London. Obviously, a once in a lifetime experience, but as I'm sure every athlete on this series will tell you, with highs comes some extreme lows. I had a really difficult build up to London 2012. My top horse passed away in 2011, but luckily I had bought a second horse. Next photo. To compete. And my second horse, Rio, took some getting used to. I was so desperate to go to a home games that I let my desperation transfer through to my horse Rio when I competed. So even in April 2012, it was looking like I wouldn't even be selected. But luckily, I was chosen to talk at my old university a bit like this, but in person. And I was listening to an ex-Olympic diver called Leon Taylor talk about his experiences as an elite athlete and also about mentoring a young chap called Tom Daly. And I thought, you know what, this could be what I need. So I spoke to him, Leon, afterwards and said, look, could you mentor me? Just as someone slightly removed from my sport, but who knew what I was going through. And he came to watch me ride one day and he simply asked me, why did you start sport in the first place? And I said, well, to have fun, I guess. And he said, well, it doesn't really look like you're having fun at the moment. You're just so desperate to, get the results to go to London. You've lost the spark. So he was right. The instant I put a smile back on my face, my results rocketed. And the rest is history, really. My favourite moment from London, I don't know how many of you guys watch the dressage, but in Pebble dressage, because of health and safety, everyone, instead of clapping, was told to butterfly wave. And as I came out of my third event, my family knew that my horse was quite well behaved. So my brother and my two cousins came out uh, and started shouting, "We love you, Sophie!" And the whole 10,000 people just started shouting, "We love you!" And it was just so awesome. I don't think anything will ever beat what London was, but going through to 2016, my build-up was even worse. My coach of ever since I was 13 years old decided to leave to help teach developing countries, which was absolutely the right decision for him. It meant that our legacy could be used to help other countries, but I really struggled to find a coach to fit into my team. And I knew my horse Rio would be too old for Rio 2016. So an owner bought a new young mare, Athene, but in 2016 she was absolutely riddled with injury. So I kept Rio going as my reserve, and I literally didn't know which horse I would take to Rio until they got on the plane. And Athene ended up going, and she travelled well, but almost recovered too well, because 2 days before I competed, she was so full of energy, I just had to get off. Now, because of my disability, it means that my coach has to ride my horse for me, for health and safety, but also to be able to do things that I can't really do myself. And my coach, who my owner wanted me to have, decided the day before I was going to compete that it was all too much for her and she couldn't warm my scene up for me. So you can imagine how I felt the night before I was going to compete in Rio. Luckily, I had built quite a good relationship with the team coach, so he stepped in and he knew me quite well, but this was not what I had practiced. So I had to draw on all of my experience to be able to win. So yeah, I ended up winning 3 more of these. But it was a really unhappy year for me. So after I came back from Rio, I decided to take a few months out to see what I wanted to do. So if you do well in a Paralympic Games, normally the months afterwards are absolutely insane. Especially as I was nominated for Sports Personality of the Year, which was an absolute honour. But honestly, I have never been so scared in my whole life. Walking up on stage in front of millions of people with all the lights and the cameras. I train every day to compete, but I don't train to go on stage like that. So after all the glitz and the glamour back to reality, I had two choices. I could either retire from sport or carry on my way. Clearly, the way in 2016 did not work. My team weren't on my side. So in 2017, I relocated and I found a new team. But within that time, I've already gone through some ups and downs. The first horse that I bought, Harry, decided Dressage wasn't for him. I used to go in the arena and he used to find out that he was stronger than me and just did what he wanted. And that is not a good way to go. So I had really draw the line and make the decision to sell him and buy my new two horses, Stella on the left and Louis. Stella's quite young, so she's a bit needy. So I bought an older horse, Louis, who I thought would be much more reliable, but he's scared of his own shadow. In fact, I fell off him in March and broke my shoulder. So for me, the postponement of the game really helped me, actually. I probably would have, made it, but I think having another year to really solidify my relationship with my new team and new horses will be really good. But power dressage is like the most expensive sport you can choose. We have very few owners and sponsors in power sport. So I decided I would try and make a difference by setting up a membership club called Sophie's Gold Club to crowdfund for both myself and my up and coming power riders in order to leave a legacy. So if you're interested in becoming a member, please head over to my website. It would be much appreciated. I hope I haven't bored you all to death with my story, but I thought it would help.
No, that's really good. Thank you very much, Sophie. That's really given us an insight onto really from the start and to where you are now. And I'm sure there's people watching on YouTube and in the Zoom chat who are eager to ask you some questions, Paralympic wise, competing wise, life story wise. So a pleasure to introduce you to Zain, our sports officer, and Abdul, our education officer, and Elspeth from the Equestrian Club.
Yeah.
So Elspeth, you're from the Equestrian Club. Do you have any questions for Sophie?
Of course, I've got many a question. So now that you've been ranked so highly, like it's insane, it's unbelievable. Do you feel at this point you're almost competing against yourself to better what you've done in the past?
Well, I think especially in power sport, the sport is growing so much. So actually, the athletes I'm competing against now are of much higher caliber than they were even 4 years ago. I was lucky in London and Rio that my horses were so far ahead of any other caliber of horses that kind of, I think with my disability, a lot of people are a bit scared of like putting us on high caliber horses. But I proved that it could be done. So now a lot of every other athlete is almost copying me, so I think in Tokyo I will have a hell of a fight to stay on top. You know, I love my horses at the moment, but I struggled in Perth to find good horses after Rio, so we'll see.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question. So when you're looking for horses, what are you looking for exactly? Because riders often describe like that they're working as a partnership with their horse. So obviously their horse is such an important part of the sport. So what do you look for when you're looking for a new horse?
Yeah, so temperament is absolutely key. I mean, obviously, from what I went through with the horse I bought after Rio, he was not the right temperament. And it's a bit of a pressure buying horses. Uh, if you ever have, it's like buying a house. People do a lot of purchase them. And so sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Also for me, because I only compete at walk, their walk has to be phenomenal. Like with such big movement, but also because I'm not that coordinated or strong, they have to stay in quite slow carriage. Sorry for all you non-equestrian. And kind of they have to have confidence and be able to look after themselves.
Yeah, so when you get a horse, how do you start that training process? Because obviously for most horses, it'll be a little bit different to what they're used to. So how do you get them used to competing? Like, I'm so surprised the fact that your horses are able to focus for that 6 minutes and walk, because that is hard.
Definitely. So before 2016, my horses were a bit older. Rio, my horse in London, had been competed up to national level, able-bodied. So he'd been there and done it and knew the deal. But my ones now, they've never been to that level of competition. So it's all about giving them confidence. My new coach is a phenomenal rider to just like give them the confidence that they need. And I find that actually most horses that they'll understand me. Like even though I don't give conventional aids, they still just get it and they know to look after me. A lot of my horses will be accident maniacs with able-bodied riders, but the minute I get on, they're like, we behave now.
So obviously with the like level that you've got to go to, and obviously the training must be intense, like a lot of early mornings, a lot of getting out of bed when you probably don't want to get out of bed. How do you stay focused to get to the yard like every day?
So actually, because of my disability, I knew this from a young age. I knew I'd have to like pay people to look after my horses. With me, because my aids aren't that clear, I only ride them 2-3 times a week because it's about quality over quantity. So they will, be schooled by my coach once a week and then hacked or go over poles for variety. So I knew that instead of getting up every day to go to the yard, I'd have to get up every day to go to work, and I need to pay for people to look after my horses. And that's a challenge with power dressage. You know, able-bodied riders can make a living from this, whereas the more disabled riders have to rely on able-bodied people to help us.
So how would you define the differences between para dressage and able-bodied dressage? What are the big differences in the sport?
So we have 5 disability categories, so they range from me, who did a 6-minute walk test. I'm grade 1, grade 2 is walk and trot, up until grade 5 who kind of compete at least advanced medium dressage. So our top grade 5 rider, Sophie also, wins able-bodied national titles. So that's kind of the standard that she's at. But I'd say because we don't have kind of the coordination and core strength, the judges look more for harmony. It's all about how the partnership looks, less about power. Yeah, more about harmony and flow, and does it paint a good picture?
Yeah, and you mentioned riding with the RDA right at the start of your career when you were younger. So what influence do you think they had on your career? And what would you say to people that are maybe thinking about getting involved with the RDA?
Yeah, oh my God. Without the RDA, I would not be where I am today. I wouldn't have even got on a horse, probably, because my mum is actually allergic to horses. So I think I started it just to annoy her. But the riding for the disabled looks after thousands of children and adults. And it's a great charity. In fact, I'm fundraising for them at the moment because they're so key. In COVID, a lot of their riders aren't able to ride because they need a lot of help, so can't do that social distance, but they're still having to look after their horses and ponies. So yeah, I'm helping them fundraise.
That's amazing. So a bit of a horsey question. I'm sorry to everyone that isn't horsey, but I'm just desperate to find out all this stuff. So obviously with your aids being a little bit different, do you have your tack altered?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So if you'd asked that question 5 years ago, I rode without stirrups because at the time I felt that I could move more with the horse's movement without stirrups. I also had a breastplate to help keep my hands steady, and I have loops in my reins because I can't grip the reins for very long. Now, obviously, I still have my loop friend, but when my horse Harry started playing up, I decided maybe it's, I'm getting too tight. So I started riding with stirrups again just to try to open my hips. But obviously that didn't work, but I've kept riding with them because I think it makes me more symmetrical. And I'm glad I had, because I think I would have fallen off Louis a few more times if I hadn't. And I also took the breastplate away because in Tokyo it's going to be extremely hot, and I don't want anything on the horses to, well, Louis in particular likes to itch. So, taking off the tack will help mitigate against that. And I think that's a key lesson for any athlete having to stay at the top. You have to learn to adapt and change what you've done for many years. Yeah.
So equestrian is often talked about like as an umbrella sport. It's often talked about as being quite like elitist. What do you think about that? And what do you think about the people that don't want to join in on the sport because they're scared of that term?
Yeah, I like to think that the RDA being a charity makes the power dressage a bit less elitist. Having said that, I think we're going that way. Partly my fault. Competing such, high caliber horses, I'm having to spend so much money on these horses now. And I think power dressage has to be a bit careful that we don't end up getting elitist. So actually, my new horse Louis, he's like a part cob. He's not like an elite sleek sport horse. So hopefully I can prove that you can still win with correct paces and they don't have to look, flash. We'll see.
Yeah. With you getting to such a high level and obviously reaching like a level of fame where people recognize your name and people recognize you for what you do, with that in mind, do you feel like we should be doing more to represent like para sport and para dressage within the media? Because I feel like we don't get half as much as we should do. What do you think about that?
Well, I'm slightly biased. But I think that's good for all power sports.
Yeah.
We only get coverage once every 4 years, really. And we show that the British public get behind us during the Paralympics. So it is quite frustrating that we don't get more airtime. I think within Equestrian it's getting a bit better. So we seem to be getting more coverage in like Horse and Hound. And also live streaming, Horse and Country TV was that competition I was at a couple months ago for the first time. And I think if people really want to help, that's key. Watch live streams, show that you're interested. Go watch when we can. That's how you can help support us. So maybe when we get more fans and supporters, we can then get more sponsors.
Yeah. So here at the university, we work quite hard at making sport inclusive. And obviously with equestrian being a sport that's quite hard to get in terms of like money, access to horses, we actually offer lessons for beginners. And one of our beginners has posted in a question and would like to know how you go from just starting riding to how you kind of get better. What do you do? Do you read extra stuff? Do you go and practice more? What did you do to go from beginner to advanced rider?
Yeah, I think now it's really cool having so many videos like YouTube. Just watch that. I think it is difficult, like in dressage. I would say if you're able-bodied, you are not going to be Charlotte Tuesday in a few years. Kind of, what's the lower levels at national level? This will make no sense in other sports. But in dressage, we have different levels up to Olympic level. So yeah, just watch. Don't be afraid to ask questions. I think reading books can help, but it's all about feel. Yeah, also be able to ride as many horses as you can because they'll all give different feels. That's kind of why I've stayed in my sport for so long, because every horse that I've had has been completely different. I think if I was like 100-meter runner, and that's all I did, I'd get so bored. But yeah, definitely ride as many different horses as you can.
Sophie, I've got a question. Obviously, you're a Paralympian and you also work at Goldman Sachs. Along with that, you're also a disability rights campaigner. So,
Yeah.
what sort of issues do you face daily as being a campaigner for disability rights?
How long have we got? I think I'm very lucky that I've got quite a high platform, so I can, put on social media and talk to the media about the issues that I face. So for me, just commuting into London where I work is a whole palaver. So even though I can walk, I use a wheelchair for long distances. Um, so for me, getting on a train is hit or miss. The staff are either there or they're not. I never know if I'm able to get off the train at the other end, which is absolutely horrible to have that feeling. I mean, can you imagine thinking, oh, I wonder if I'll get off? Um, so yeah, the staff need to bring the ramp. And I think in this day and age, it's horrendous that with the technology that we have, communication doesn't get through. So I'm loving working from home, I have to say. It means I don't have to do battle with the trains to get to work. Also things like your high street. How many steps do you encounter to get into shops with your wheelchairs? I just think disabled people need to be consulted in all areas of life. If you're a business out there, ask what your disabled customer wants. Even I don't know what it's like to be like blind or deaf or having to work from home if I've got kids. Like, just ask. I think, yeah, we'll get there if more people have the courage to stand in other people's shoes.
Thank you, Sophie. Abdul, do you want to go with the
Yeah,
next question?
I have a couple questions actually. Sophie, I heard you have a CBE. So how is it like to get a CBE from the Queen?
Yeah, well, I actually worked my way up. After I won my first gold medal in Beijing, I got a letter in my university dorms, uh, saying
Wow.
I had received an MBE, and you're not meant to tell people until it's announced. So I read this letter in my room, and
That's
I screamed.
Oh,
All my flatmates like ran in, and they were like, "What's wrong? What's wrong?" And I couldn't tell them, but they did eventually guess. Um,
Mhm.
so it's just, as an athlete, you work towards winning gold. You don't expect anything else that comes with it.
Yeah.
So,
That's good to know.
getting honors is, no pun intended, a huge honor. Um, so, yeah, I've been given my different honors from different members of the royal family.
It's
So,
amazing.
the Queen, Prince Philip, uh, yeah. So,
some really important life events. I mean, it must be incredibly proud, to have all these massive achievements. We've got a couple of questions in the Zoom chat and on YouTube. We've got a question, Sophie. Fantastic and congrats. What is the secret to your success?
I think there's I have many secrets. Obviously, I would say work hard, but that's kind of a given. You need to, um, go through the downs in order to appreciate the highs. And I always say that, if it was easy, everyone would be doing it. That also, and this is key for everyone, make sure you surround yourself with the right people, and quite often it'll take some time to figure out who's right for you, who's not. And don't be afraid to be selfish at times. But obviously do it in the right way. But it's your life, you live it.
That's brilliant. Thank you very much. We've also got a question from Carol. Happy Disability Month, everyone. Sophie, who is your favourite dressage rider? It's an interesting one.
Oh, so I don't want to be obvious and say Charlotte. Uh, I think I'm gonna say Sophie Wells, who's a para rider in our world. She works so hard, like so hard. And also she coaches up and coming riders, because she's more able than I am. She's able to, leave a legacy by doing that. And she's doing a great job.
Brilliant, brilliant. I'm cautious that we're coming close to the end, so it'd be really good if obviously we've got a number of viewers on YouTube, a number of viewers on Zoom. To the people on Zoom, to the guests, feel free to turn on your microphone now and ask some questions direct to Sophie. So if there's anyone there who've got any eager questions, here's your chance. Don't be shy.
If no one wants to ask, I'll ask something.
Sounds like a good plan. Anyone in the chat who'd like to ask a question?
Everyone's gone shy.
Everyone's gone
Sophie.
shy. What's going on? Abdul, you've got. Oh,
Yeah,
go
I'll
ahead.
ask it.
Go ahead.
Oh, okay.
Oh, sorry. I thought someone was going to
Go on,
talk.
Abdul. I think
Okay,
it's
Abdul, off
Abdul's
you
name.
go. Abdul, you got a question?
Oh, yeah. This one's a bit of a juicy one. So did people treat you differently after you became famous?
No. So it's quite interesting how the Paralympics changed after 2012. I actually really suffered after I won my first gold medal in Beijing. You know, I had done my lifelong dream of winning a Paralympic gold medal whilst I was still at university. And I came back into my third year and no one acknowledged it because it was at the time where no one knew about the Paralympics. And to me, going back to reality, I really suffered. I really suffered with my mental health and depression, and you know, it was something I'd never encountered before. To have a really irrational thought, and it actually took my advisor in the maths department. I had a meeting and she asked me if I was okay because I wasn't my usual smiley self. And I told her and she was like, the trouble is no one will know, knows what you've been through. You've been in this fairy tale world and now you're back in reality. And to have her just understand what I was going through really, really helped. And then of course after London, the whole of the UK knew about the Paralympics. So I didn't have the same downer because everyone else was kind of on the downer as well after the Olympics and Paralympics. So, yeah.
Brilliant, brilliant. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
I'm aware that we're coming near to the end, so I think we've got one or two bearing questions that's been sent in. One from Alice Cook, which is a very interesting question. Obviously, you were continuing to ride while you were at Royal Holloway studying. How did you cope with balancing studying and riding when you were at university?
Yeah, it was tough, and again, credit to my advisor because I am well, firstly, I don't know how you guys would feel, but my competition season was in exam time, so they moved our exams around to suit my timetable. So all my friends, if we had 5 exams in 1 week and then a couple weeks off, they were like, it was you.
Hmm?
So I'm really grateful to Royal Holloway for, moving things around for
So they were
me.
very supportive while you were studying. That's really great. And
Yes.
obviously, you're when you're not competing, you're probably training. And you briefly mentioned about mental health and everything. And obviously, that's very prevalent at the moment with coronavirus and stuff like that. How's coronavirus affected your training?
Yeah, well, I couldn't ride at the start of the first lockdown. I was still recovering from my broken shoulder. But then I couldn't ride because of social distance. But then elite sport got exemptions so I could. The only thing now is I can't go to my gym, so I work out at home, which is not quite the same,
Not the
but
same.
at least something.
You'll do the job
So
for now.
I would say to everyone at the moment, just try to get out, virtually every day, get some fresh air, walk around the block, keep connected with your friends and family. Technology is amazing when it works. So, yeah, we'll get through this together.
Brilliant, brilliant. And I know I said last question. This is my genuine last question. In a few words, what's next for you? Where's your sights now?
So obviously aiming for Tokyo again, take two. I think I'm pretty sure it'll go ahead. I'd athletes should kind of have to have the mentality like it will happen, because otherwise, if there's any doubt in your mind, you won't train your best. So yeah, as I said before, the extra year will actually do me a lot of good. So we'll see.
Excellent, excellent. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. It's been a real pleasure. It wouldn't be right if I didn't give a mention to Adam, who's here as well. He's organised this Meet the Paralympian series that we've got. We're inviting 2 Paralympians a week during Disability History Month, which started yesterday. Adam, if you got a couple of words.
Just thank you so much for coming and getting involved. You've been absolute joy. And thank you, Elsef, as well, for asking so many questions that we just wouldn't know to ask.
Yes,
Thank you, Sophie.
Specialist questions. We needed someone that could ask the specialist questions. We're very glad. So yeah, thanks to everybody who's tuned in on Zoom and on YouTube. And to the next person who will be inviting will be Miller Mbe, who's a British athlete who competes in the fields of Paralympic club and discus throwing. Who Stephen's won 3 gold, 1 silver, 1 bronze medal at the Paralympics, so he'll be a really interesting person to talk to. Adam, when's that?
Tuesday, 6 o'clock.
Tuesday, 6 o'clock.
Same place.
He's been around longer than I have.
We'll have some brilliant questions lined up for him. And thank you to Zain and Abdul as well, who asked some brilliant questions as well.
Thank you, Sophie. That was amazing. Thanks for that. And Elizabeth too. Your questions.
Thank
really
you, guys.
a lot.
Thank you so much, Sophie. Very great to meet you.
Thank you.
So yeah, tune in for the next month. We've got plenty more events on, and to everybody who's tuned in, thank you for all your questions. Thanks for tuning in, and we've got plenty going on in the next month. So thank you everybody, and hopefully see you very soon.
Thank you, man.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
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 Yeah.